poultry.
Have you been on vacation?
It contains an exclusive vitamin B and E complex called vitaniacin. Olay Total Effects fights the 7 signs of aging.
You look beautiful.
New Total Effects from Olay. Proven to reveal a remarkable beauty transformation.
This business report is brought to you by Grandin Toy. Grandin Toy, making offices work.
Yeah. I'll be right over.
Jim, don't go.
I've got to. They're out of toner.
No, there. Get it. Get it. Get it.
Oh, nice one.
The red one. The red one.
Ooh, you the man, Carl. You the man.
I'm Larry Stout at Toronto Stock Market Place. Canada's Stratford Festival opens its 49th season this Monday, although some festivities and plays will be held on this weekend as well. And it's going to be a rather interesting season on stage. We'll talk a little bit about that. But we also wanted to concentrate on the business of operating a festival such as Stratford. And joining me is Don Woodley, who is the Vice Chair of the Board of Governors of the Stratford Festival, who had a long career in the information technology industry, including a stint as president of Compact Computers of Canada and also of Oracle, and now runs his own consulting business. And thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you, Larry. It's pleased to be here.
What kind of input have you and other members of industry been able to give Stratford that has been able to get the festival on a strong business footing?
I think there's 2 things that we on the board do to help that. First of all is to help set the strategic mission and vision of the Stratford Festival, along with the artistic director and the management of the festival. And the second thing is to actually bring the discipline of running a business to the festival's operation, so that while we're focusing on the artistic stage and the craft on the stage, it's also run as a business and a successful one.
Well, as a matter of fact, it is successful. For example, your budget is $40 million, but only, well, I guess less than 20% of it comes from government donations and private and corporate donations. So you're really running it mainly out of your own revenues. How do you achieve that goal?
Well, the bulk of our revenues come from ticket sales, Larry, and we focus on our marketing campaigns. We open up the box office in November. A lot of our customers plan their summer around coming to the festival, and so they know what the season's like in the end of the year, and so they're planning their vacations or their trips to Stratford when the box office opens late in the year. So at this time, it's May, we're almost about ready to open the season. We've had about 60% of our tickets have actually all been sold now, so we know pretty well which productions are going to be selling out and which productions need to get marketed a little bit more aggressively through our advertising.
As a matter of fact, last year you had a $4.3 million surplus, which, as I understand it, you're going to put into a fund to raise $50 million by the next 5 years.
Right. We have an endowment campaign which raises $50 million to ensure the long-term success and viability of the Stratford Festival. By this time next year, we'll be about halfway there, and each year from our surplus, we put funds aside to go into our endowment. And that really ensures the long-term experience for our patrons, ensures the success of the future of the Stratford Festival. In addition, out of our surplus this year, we're putting about $2 million into the renovations of the Avon Theatre, which will be half complete this year and fully complete in 2002.
But you really do have to run this like a business. So what kind of practices have you and your fellow board members and the director put into place to run it like a business?
Well, it really is a blend of the artistic side and a business side. I refer to the strategic plan and the vision that the artistic director has for the festival itself, but we also have an annual budget. We have a system that ensures that expenses are in budget, and we manage each month according to the targeted for the expenditure levels and so on. And if we're falling off in the box office, we will put incremental money into the marketing, just as a business would, to assure additional patrons come to the theater.
And part of that marketing campaign has been directed very successfully, again, at the American audience. You depend on them to a great extent.
Yeah, 35 or 40% of our patrons come from the U.S. They come primarily from Illinois, Michigan, Ohio, and New York. And as well, about 35% of our members are also coming from the U.S., and members are strong personal financial contributors to the festival.
How much money do you put back into the community?
Well, the economic impact of the festival is, for the greater Stratford area, some estimates are close to $300 million. We have 700 employees in the Stratford Festival itself, between the administrative staff, the artists, and the artisans who prepare the stage and the property and the sets and so on. And we estimate that there's about 7,000 people employed in the greater Stratford area as a result of the Stratford Festival.
And some of the plays we'll be able to see this year?
Well, I'm particularly looking forward to The Merchant of Venice and
Paul
Twelfth Night.
replacing the late Al Waxman.
Exactly. It's going to be an outstanding production. It opens on May 28th. Twelfth Night, which is a classic Shakespearean comedy. Bill Hutt is starring in that, as well as some members of our young company coming to the stage. And so we're really looking forward to a successful season, Larry.
Great. Thanks very much, Don Woodley of the Stratford Festival. We appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Larry.
And stay with us. I'm Larry Stout at Toronto Stock Marketplace. More news coming up.
The completely redesigned Acura EL. Forget being admired from afar.
You do your best with what you have. It seems that the dust is removed, but much is being moved around and resettles after a while. But with Swiffer, the better cleaning system, honeycomb structured cloths use electrostatic action to attract and trap the dust. Even animal hairs and allergens are trapped. What's left behind is the clean. When Swiffer's the one, consider it done.
I don't have to tell you why you should quit smoking. You have your reasons. They're as good as anyone's, including mine. But if you're looking for something to help you quit, something to help control your cravings, I recommend Nicoderm. It's a patch most recommended by doctors and pharmacists.
Try new Nicoderm Clear, the most discreet patch.
That be all, Doctor?
Thanks.
You smoke?
Not anymore.
Nicoderm, most recommended by doctors and pharmacists.
When we decided to bring back the classic taste of chubby chicken, we thought this time, let's try lots of varieties.
Anybody want a mango chubby chutney on a stick?
No.
A chubby pocket popper?
Is that chicken?
Maybe there's something back there.
Maybe we'll just stick to pieces, burgers, and strips. Chubby chicken's back at A&W.
Imagine nature without any color. It's much better when you add all the shades of spring. Cedar, for example, or walnut, redwood, or even blue wood. Formulated for the Canadian climate by Canada's paint experts. The superior protection of wood shield stain comes in more than 1,000 colors, only at Home Hardware. Add more color to your great outdoors. Home Hardware. Health is close to home.
This is CTV Newsnet.
Hello, everyone. I'm Marcy E., and thank you for joining us. Our top stories: the search is over. Officials say everyone has been accounted for in the deadly collapse of a Jerusalem banquet hall. And just ahead, serial killer Michael McRae claims responsibility for another victim. Cave-in disaster. The building collapse in Israel reaches Canada. And coming to a halt, Donovan Bailey gets ready to retire. The search through the rubble of a banquet hall in Jerusalem is over. The Israeli army has called off the search. A spokesperson says authorities believe all the dead have been recovered and there are no more survivors.
We are instructed to look for missing people.
The third-story dance floor collapsed during a Thursday night wedding celebration. The building's owner has been arrested and questioned. Israel's worst-ever civil disaster killed at least 23 people. Funerals were set to begin when the Jewish Sabbath ended tonight. 300 people were injured. Prime Minister Ariel Sharon calls the collapse a national disaster and says he'll consider an inquiry. Wedding tragedy in Jerusalem has reached across the Atlantic and touched lives here in Canada. A Toronto woman's brother-in-law was one of the guests at the wedding who fell 3 stories. Amram Arbely and his wife escaped serious injuries, but his parents suffered broken bones and his sister a broken back. Sarah Azaguri reached him by phone.
He was very upset and he was like shocked. The way he spoke with me, he was very, like, I mean, he could not understand how he survived that.
Strong winds and dry conditions continue to fuel a raging forest fire in northern Alberta. The fire is near Flatbush, about 200 kilometers north of Edmonton. A shift in the wind has prompted authorities to lift an evacuation order, but authorities are still advising those who live closest to the fire to stay away. CTV's Dan Kobe reports.
This is the wall of flames fire crews faced in northern Alberta, the fiery scene stretching for kilometers. When the wind shifted south, locals and their livestock pulled out.
We've got the cattle out, we've got the kids, we've got them out, nobody's in danger.
Over 30 people were ordered to leave. Many more were on evacuation alert as giant flames knocked on their doorsteps.
We have the truck loaded with just a few things, and we didn't think it would be this serious.
And all we're trying to do is save these structures for right now. But as you can see, the fire's coming up on us.
Crews soaked down nearby homes and property to fend off the flames, working dangerously close to the wall of fire.
One guy spray them bales down, the other guy watch the fire. Don't take your eye off that fire for nothing, because anything could happen. It'll come across the road there right beside you shortly.
Throughout the day, the blaze continued to evade firefighters.
The fire actually started on this side of the Athabasca River. The biggest challenge so far, however, has been wind, and it actually caused the fire to jump over the river, and now crews are working on both sides trying to contain this blaze.
We're dealing with extremely dry fuels here, and so any wind at all makes control efforts hard here.
Just as workers appeared to be winning the battle, those winds picked up.
I got 2 cats here, I got 1 cat here.
Load after load of water was dumped onto the inferno as family and friends scrambled to save what they could.
The worst part is you have no control over it. There's nothing I can do to help save their house.
Finally, a wind shift late in the day gave firefighters the break they needed to get ahead of the flames. Still, families are left wondering if their homes will be standing in the morning. Dan Kobe, CTV News, Flatbush, Alberta.
There are signs that it is growing lonelier at the top for Canadian Alliance leader Stockwell Day. Even Albertans have turned on Day in the heartland of his party. An Environics poll shows support for the party has slipped from 59% to 34%, and 71% of Albertans disapprove of Day's job as leader. This comes as attempts to gag party critics have sparked open rebellion at a conference of Alliance directors in Calgary. Dissidents denounced Day's leadership and, in the words of one critic, described party directors as, quote, the forces of darkness. With more on the Alliance crisis, here's CTV Ottawa Bureau Chief Craig Oliver.
Stockwell Day appears to be presiding over a political meltdown he can't shut down. His meeting with the party's governing body was billed as an opportunity to reconcile the warring factions over his leadership. Instead, this.
I don't know. I'm just so mad I can't even think.
Nancy Branscombe, a national councillor and wife of a party co-chair, stormed out after Day and others had voted to oust top strategist Rick Anderson over his demands that Day resign.
Seems like there's a one-sided gag order. If you support the leader, it's okay to say so, but if you don't support the leader, it's not okay to say so. And frankly, I'm just sickened by it.
Well, I just don't think you build a party by...
An emotional Anderson, a founder of the Alliance along with Preston Manning, says he'll now have to consider whether to remain a member.
I think Council is making a mistake today and going in the direction it's going, narrowing the tent and limiting dialogue and so on.
But the most damning accusation against Day came from another council member who has kept his silence up until now.
I believe that Mr. Day is without a doubt the worst abomination you could possibly see in politics today.
Cliff Friars ran the election campaign, which swept Preston Manning into the opposition leader's office. Now, he says, in only 10 months, Day has taken his party straight downhill.
Have you just provoked your own suspension?
I suspect I probably have, yes.
Once again, Stockwell Day found himself trying to reassure the party, and a public viewing all of this with growing astonishment.
And this isn't the first time that this organization and the people in it have gone through this type of emotional strain. And, you know, we will become stronger for it. We're far more transparent, obviously, about our issues than other parties are.
Craig Oliver, CTV News, Ottawa.
The man who may be Canada's worst serial killer has pleaded guilty to another murder. Michael Wayne McGray admitted he killed an 11-year-old girl. Nina Hicks and her mother were found dead in a Moncton apartment in 1998. McGray has already confessed to killing the mother and 4 other people. But in media interviews, he has also claimed responsibility for up to 16 other killings across Canada. On Monday, McGray is expected to appear in court to answer murder charges in the death of a Nova Scotia teen. Foul play is now suspected after bone fragments were discovered at a construction site in the Toronto suburb of Scarborough. The bones have been identified as those of a teenager. The bone fragments were found in a mound of dirt dumped on the construction lot in 1997. Investigators say they still have no clue who the victim is, but they do know the remains are of a teenager between 15 and 19 years old. The sex of the person is also unknown, but police have determined the bones are not from an historic native site next to the construction area. The PEI man who creamed the Prime Minister is now out on bail pending an appeal of his sentence. And Evan Wade Brown has discovered jail time wasn't easy.
No comments. Nothing.
As he left prison, Brown had nothing to say to reporters. The prankster found his short stay behind bars tough. Just moments after beginning his 30-day sentence, he was punched in the face by another prisoner. Brown's lawyer says his client has been punished unfairly for the stunt.
Of course, he hasn't been enjoying his time very much. Not that you're supposed to, but he's been enjoying it less than I think was anticipated or intended by the sentencing judge.
Brown smacked a pie in Jean Chrétien's face last August while the Prime Minister was on a visit to Charlottetown. Buff was beautiful in downtown Montreal today, and it was for the sake of art. About 2,500 Montrealers exposed themselves to the cool, damp, early morning elements. They stripped off to be part of a human sculpture. New York photographer Spencer Tunick's Naked Pavement series has taken him on almost 50 shoots around the world since 1994. The Montreal version is for an exhibit called Metamorphosis and Cloning at the Museum of Contemporary Art. Travelers flying with British Airways are warned to mind their manners when checking in. The airline is cracking down on what it calls ground rage. British Airways is warning that passengers who are rude to check-in staff could be banned from flights. Travelers can be prevented from boarding if they use threatening, abusive, or insulting words. Check-in staff say they are facing increased abuse from frustrated and aggressive passengers. As old and tattered as your favorite Saturday morning jeans are, they couldn't hold a candle to these.
Here they are, the oldest pair of Levi's jeans.
This pair of Levi's dates back to the 1880s. They were up for auction on the eBay internet site, and after a last-minute two-way bidding war, they were bought by the Levi Strauss Company.
The final selling price was $46,532, which sets the record for any pair of jeans in the world.
We invented the blue jean in 1873, and then we lost everything in 1906 in the earthquake and fire, so we're very happy these are coming home to us in San Francisco.
The jeans will be on permanent display at the Levi's flagship store in San Francisco. Here are some of the other stories making headlines this hour. In sports, when Boston's Hideo Nomo is at the top of his game, there's really not much hitters can do. The Toronto Blue Jays found that out the hard way as Nomo threw a complete game, one hitter in a 4-0 Red Sox win. Nomo struck out 14 Blue Jays, including 7 in a row late in the game. The two teams tangle again this evening. In showbiz, award-winning actor Robert Downey Jr. has entered a not guilty plea on drug possession charges, and prosecutors are apparently discussing a plea bargain that could avoid Downey returning to prison. Downey's brief court appearance was the first time the star has been seen in public since he checked himself into a rehab center in April. And in the weather, sunny with cloudy periods in BC, a mix of rain and snow across the prairies, rain in Ontario and Quebec, sunshine for Atlantic Canada. Now here's a look at how the markets performed this week.
This is Mike Eppel at the CTV Newsnet Business Center. The Bank of Canada will tell us on Tuesday what it thinks about the economy with either a 25 or 50 basis point interest rate reduction. Ahead of that this week, we saw a lot of hand-wringing again for investors with concerns about the U.S. economy and the impact here at home. The TSE had a big performance on Tuesday, offsetting a 3-day losing streak, and the market for the week up 0.3%. The NASDAQ had another money-making weekly performance, the 5th in the past 7. This week's gain, 2.4%. And at the New York Stock Exchange, weaker than expected U.S. economic news, pessimistic commentary from Fed Chairman Alan Greenspan, and a shakeup in the U.S. Senate, which gave control to the Democrats, teamed up to send the Dow to a weekly loss of 2.6%.
CTV Newsnet is your ultimate source for breaking news, because when news happens, you need to know now. CTV Newsnet is there first with complete coverage to bring you the whole story live as it unfolds. Turn to CTV Newsnet. News now.
Going out and drinking life in.
That's what it's all about.
Not to mention, of course,
Drinking Sunny D in.
Sunny D. They love the taste. You'll love the full day's supply of vitamin C.
unleash the sun.
Sunny D.
Just like an old friend, you can count on and trust. It's like stroking on the sunshine, right over the rust. Treat it to trim clad, give it some TSC.
More people paint and protect more things with TrimClad than with all other rust paints combined. Look for special 33% bonus aerosol and 20% bonus brush-on in gloss white and gloss black.
More than 3,000 Canadians are waiting for the gift of sight. They are on the waiting list for a corneal transplant. Karen Owen has the story of a very young patient whose name recently reached the top of the list.
Carly is a happy, bubbly baby girl. She is 4 months old, but when she was born, doctors knew immediately that something was wrong with her eyes. Within days of Carly's birth, her parents were told that Carly needed a cornea transplant. Without it, she would be blind in the right eye and possibly the left eye as well. But the operation didn't take place right away. Like most people who need tissue or organ transplants, Carly had to wait until there was a donor.
You know, I'd put her to bed and sit there at night thinking, well, I wonder if tomorrow will be the phone call.
In January, they got the call. Sadly, another baby had died, and the baby's parents had made the decision to donate their child's organs and tissue. Thanks to their generosity, Carly was given a chance to see. So far, there are no signs of rejection, but Carly needs daily steroid eye drops in her right eye. Carly's left eye is improving on its own, and she may not need a second transplant.
You don't really realize how important it is to sign your donor cards until you go through something like we have. I know it's sad to say, but until Carly was born and required this transplant, mine wasn't signed.
If you want to be an organ donor, make sure you sign the back of your Alberta Healthcare card. But just as importantly, let your family know about your wishes, because ultimately it is an organ donor's family that will make the final decision. Karen Owen, CFCN News.
Coming up in the next 15 minutes, we'll update your morning weather outlook. Plus, we'll check out the morning sports scores. But first, the top stories at this hour.
This is CTV Newsnet.
are signs things are getting worse for Stockwell Day. Even voters in the heartland of the Canadian Alliance have turned on the leader. An Environics poll shows support for the party has slipped from 59 to 34%, and 71% of Albertans disapprove of Day's job as leader. In other news, forest fires continue to ravage parts of Alberta near Edmonton. An evacuation order for 12 families has been lifted, but authorities are urging them to stay away. Other small communities remain on evacuation alert. 11 fires continue to burn out of control. The 10-week-old strike by school janitors and maintenance workers in Halifax appears to be coming to an end. The school board and the union have come to a tentative agreement. The deal, which will be voted on today, was struck after 3 days of mediation. About 2,500 Montrealers took it all off early this morning. They were participating in New York photographer Spencer Tunick's latest Naked Pavement series. He calls it human sculpture. Canada's